Joey again as a critical Missourian. I wanted to talk about our education system and how it sucks. Also, I wanted to talk about college and trade school, how the situation today isn't the same as it was many years ago. Um, Also, I wanted to talk about the fact how it is important that we keep a really great education system for our technical advantage based on our economy, our military, and and it's very important to keep that in mind. Scrapping education is not the way to keep a country stable. So I'm going to start with my bullets here, and I'm work. I've worked a little better on that. Um, we are suffering from below average education compared to the Asian countries and many other parts of the world. We have slipped to a near below average rank. In some subjects, we're better. In some subjects, we're worse. I mean, there's just an overall grade for us is like below average right at this time. Um, I also wanted to make the point that in my own state, I mean, I read a website that say that we are about a C minus, which not all that great, but not all that bad. There are going to be some states that have worse, and some states that have better um, scoring. The test scorings have also not all that great either in our country. So, um, and as I was pointing out, this is a major problem because education is really important for the economy and the military. Because you can't have a lot of millionaires and that don't have the support or the expertise that are needed to run their companies, their websites, and do the general management. A lot of that requires college work, especially when you want to do web design or anything, or doing anything in the corporate world that requires law requires a degree. I mean, all this, every point there needs a good education. We can, and that points. I mean, imagine how this can also help the economy and hurt it. It helps to have a good education because these people are making good money, are spending into the economy and keeping it going. When you have bad education, then we're missing out all that money that these higher salaries make that goes to spend for clothing, restaurants, food, entertainment, that other jobs are requiring other people to spend to even keep going. I mean, you're a restaurant worker, needs that higher needs the people to spend money at that restaurant, so that person have that job. So, I mean, that's one part of the point. Education can help boosting the economy because the extra money that these people make and their higher salaries go into the economy. Another point I want to add is how education is critical for the military, because you need these college educated people to make the equipment that the military needs. I mean, it takes designers and a lot of other people that make sure that our military is equipped, and that the weapons that they have is designed right, and the armor that they have follows a set design. I mean, it just anytime. I mean, imagine the aircraft carriers, the jets that they use. I mean, all this needs someone to sit and design it. So an education is required for that. Keeps in mind whenever a company, when a country puts their education in the back burner for so long, they become so technologically backwatered that it puts that country at risk of being being invaded, because they'll look weak because their military has become a backwater and don't have the latest and greatest technology to defend that country against the potential invaders or people that would do harm to the country. I mean, just take a reading from history over many, many years. I mean, I like say China, for example. Back when the Qing dynasty was ruling China, they refused to modernize their system, their military and their economy, which led to them to be invaded by the British, and they had no hope of fighting back because they were still using antiquated technology from medieval period versus guns and cannons and stuff like stuff like that. This proves the point that when you let your country become so far behind in education, you've put that country in risk. U.S. is at a huge risk if it lets itself slide any further backwards while everybody else is catching up and moving forward above us. The Asian countries, like I was saying earlier, they are technologically advanced in some form and fashion. They have some advantages because their education system is much, much better. Now, that is something that we need to really keep in mind. Now, I do recognize that there are problems in our school system. One is many of our schools are badly underfunded, and the teachers are overworked and understaffed entirely. Many teachers do not get a really good pay. Some of them have had to go on strikes several times just to get the decent pay that they deserve. I mean, this is kind of sad when we get to a point in our society that we have to see our teachers go on strike. The main educators of our children have to basically strike just to get the pay that they deserve. It's kind of sad how we've gotten this far. And we were once the most educated and most technologically forward country, but yet we're sliding, and we're letting this happen. It's not good. I mean, and even though I understand many of the teachers are understaffed, I mean, I would like to see some changes in our school system where there be more work for this. I mean, this is just my opinion. Is that we need more students to be more prepared for the real world. I mean, I get it that some things that parents can teach, but sometimes they can't. They don't have time for everything. I would have advocated for like an extra hour just for practical application, kind of learning, like how to balance a checkbook, or how to make sure that a budget is made, and and basically little things like how to detect scams. I mean, there's a ton of scams. We're in the age where scams are at an all-time high. And what I've seen on many websites and many YouTube clips, I've seen that scams are at a really high point right now. And then without some kind of education to teach these kids early, like how to detect them, that they're going to get out in the real world and like act all naive, and they could be just as much easy prey for these scammers. I mean, fraudsters and charlatans. I mean, good God, we're in it sucks that we're like this. But I would advocate that we need more hands-on training for these kids. I mean, just a few minutes a day from both parents, educators, just to try to get these kids to be aware about circumstances of the real world, and that we are not living in some kind of fantasy. That goes to show another point I want to make. I mean, that will come a little later about college. But back to the primary schools, I'm talking like 1st through 12th grade, we have still an issue with bullying. My son is an example. I mean, poor boy, he's got autism, and unfortunately, he couldn't even have a decent education without coming home crying because some bully on the bus was attacking him every day. This is the 21st century, and this should have stopped. I mean, it really sucks that we got this issue today. It may come down where cameras are going to have to be put in every corner of the entire school. Everything be watched, and any signs of bullying should be confronted immediately. I mean, but it goes back to what I was saying. There's also a problem that with schools that can't be there in every corner watching everything because we're understaffed, and it reduces the quality of the education of the kids because of this bullying problem. Seriously, how can a kid keep test scores up, keep their grades up, if they have to worry about whether they're going to come to school and be able to be stress-free without worrying about Joe Blow right behind me, right behind them, that's ready to knock their block off? I mean, a ninth grader who has to worry about crap like that, or a 10th or 11th or 12th grader, someone that's in high school that has to worry about crap like that, how they're going to be able to keep their grades up? If they have to worry about crap like this, threats of physical violence to them, or teasing, or name-calling, and the psychological trauma that could become about that. Someone once pointed that is a problem. When you go out and you sit there and tell somebody that, oh, you're too fat, or some stupid like that, some stupid childish crap like that, you can do harm. And I mean, there's more to it than what I'm trying to say. I mean, people know, the adults should know, kids can be a little bit mean. And unfortunately, well, hello, Cassie. Excuse my dog. But this proves one point. If a kid can't have a safe environment, I mean, violence, school violence is also a number one thing in this day and age. It never existed when I was in school. I mean, school shootings. Good grief! What age we live in? And now you got now a kid. I mean, I understand part of the reasons why we have such low test scores. I mean, a kid has to come to school, worry about bullying, whether they're going to be bullied. I mean, worry about whether they're going to come home alive. I mean, it's something a grade schooler is not going to comprehend, but someone in the high school, I mean, it's their threat. I've heard of bomb threats. I've heard of shootings in this day and age. I mean, a student is going to be unable to really always focus on what they're doing, what they're supposed to be doing, when they have all this outside environmental crap that's making it impossible for them. Or, I should say, just add a little extra stress to an already stressful life. I mean, getting up, getting dressed, going to school, trying to keep up your grades, and trying to make sure that you're um, that you're um, trying to make sure you're getting yourself prepared for the next stage of your life. I mean, um, when you get to high school, that's when kids need to start worrying whether they're going to go to a trade school or to a college or enter the workplace. That's they got 4 years to really start thinking about that, and this is really the critical time. From ninth grade to 12th grade, they should start. This is where I've always tried to point with one of my nieces and nephews is like, while you're in ninth grade, you need to start making your plans now. Don't wait till after school. I mean, you can always take a break and then go back to college after that, or trade school, or whatever your plans are. But you should always have some kind of plan formulated by the time you graduated, so you're not going and wandering aimlessly. I mean, spending thousands of dollars in tuition costs in college, and find out it's not what you want to do. And I'm going to touch on that soon. I mean, I know one thing that's really kind of hurt us is this Common Core crap. I am really not happy. I mean, and I'm just going to say this is more of opinion, but it seems I'm just going by appearances or observation, what I've noticed over time. It's like more and more there's a problem where there's emphasis people just getting a degree so they go be McBurger flipper. I've always had a suspicion that some of the more wealthier people are dumbing down our education system, or trying to influence it to where it's dumbed down enough, or where all you got is McFactory worker. That's all you got is that's being churned out of school systems, so they could be just another worker for them, making their money while you suffer the rest of your life on minimum wage. Again, that's not based on any, that's just based on observation of what I'm noticing over time. But I really wholeheartedly believe that our education system is also being affected by bad influences, and it really needs. They need to stop. They need to let the educators decide what's the best course of action to prepare these kids for the next stage of life, whether it be anything that they choose to be. So, I also think that sometimes, I mean, going back to my opinion, another opinion of mine is that we need more work for the disabled. I mean, some of the more disabled children could benefit more from extra hands-on work. I mean, especially if they're failing in certain areas. I mean, Some of them may not be able to grasp certain concepts as quickly as others. They may need more extra help. I mean, when I was in school and I was having some difficulties, they did have a certain class that had somebody that would just help with your homework, but don't really help you try to. I mean, if you got concepts of something that you can't understand, I mean, they don't really help you out. And I mean, I've always had to ask my science teacher whenever I had a concept there that I couldn't understand. I had to go ask them instead of the person that was supposed to be assigned to us, kind of help us along. Again, I understand. I do recognize the short staff and underfunding issues that schools have. I'm not going to fault that. I'm just saying that's just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt. But I do think that, seriously, this is going to start verging into the college thing. Is like each student should be sit down with a guidance counselor and sit here and try to get them to recognize which path would be great, which path is not so great. There's a problem that was pointed on another YouTube video not too long ago, where there's a lot of redundant careers out there where you can get the degree, but you'll be paying for it almost for a long time, because the pay grade is not so great anymore. Students should not be trying to gun for these kind of jobs where the pay is so low that they're basically have a degree which doesn't amount to anything. It doesn't get there are some degrees that don't even give you a job. Doesn't guarantee you one. And I think we need more guidance counselors trying to steer kids away from these jobs. Unless they want to take a degree that's for one subject and back it up with another subject that they could possibly combine together one way. But if you get a degree that's just garbage, where you'll be paying for that degree for almost your entire lifespan, and still getting nowhere, I mean, what's the point of having that degree? I mean, this is why I say we need guidance counselors to kind of bring kids down to reality and say, be careful what you choose. They need to do. It would be helpful if they do research, or help the kids do their research, and let them understand that some of these jobs ain't really. I mean, they look and sound glamorous. Like, for example, a YouTube video I saw said what was it, biologist? I can't remember. Something like it was some kind of science degree, and I think it was a biologist by itself, and an archaeologist too, by themselves. I mean, I think it was saying that, for example, there are probably so many students getting degrees, but so few jobs, and it turns into a crap shoot where everyone's clawing and digging at each other to try to gain that one job, when there's probably 10 students graduating from school from that degree and getting into that one, just for that one job. Overabundance in supply versus demand. So we need guidance counselors to kind of bring kids to the reality of this, and that is also touching on college. A lot of I was astonished when I found out there's a problem in the schools, in the college field, where some of these colleges are something to be scary of. You need to do your thorough research on that college, because there are some. Prime example, and this is an anecdote a little bit. In Missouri, we had a college called ITT, and I thought about going to college there one time, but life had me change the other direction. Well, after a few years, I found out the college had ended up closing its doors, and the reason why wasn't until many years later I found out that they were selling degrees that only had the same value as paper. I mean, worthless. These colleges are not really well accredited. I mean, they claim that they try to make it sound like they're the best thing out there, when unfortunately you take these degrees and go to an employer and they'll sit there and look at you and say, next. And it's something to really be aware of. That when I found out about ITT closing its doors, I was like, and I did my reading on that. I was floored that it even existed. I was not aware. I mean, I've heard stories here in the last few years that it's more common than normal, that you'll get accepted into this so-called quote unquote college, and come to find out they're worthless. Their degrees aren't worth the paper that they're printed on. That goes to another bulletin I have, is that there's a problem with fake degrees. There are colleges that are coming. There are so aimed and gunned for your money that they will make up some kind of degree just so you can attend it, and it also be completely worthless, and it's fake. These degrees are pretty much fake. And there was another YouTube video that was pointing that out. I mean, I had some suspicion that it may start coming that way, where colleges are become so in tune about money that they would do anything, even if it's something that's a little shady, just so they can rip you in two, while they part you one way and your money goes over that way. And that's it's really scary. That I really hate it to see these kids get a degree. They think it's real. They want to go for something that really burns their passion, without thinking the practicality of whether these degrees are even real, or going to actually land you a good job, or whether there's a supply and demand problem. That's something that really needs to be addressed before you, because college is expensive. It can bankrupt you now. When a college degree, when it takes as much as the price of a middle class house, and granted, in Missouri, a middle class house can go from $100,000 to $300,000, depending what your amenities are and what the condition of the house is. Well, blah blah blah. But the point I'm trying to say, when it takes all those degrees to get that cost you as much as that could bankrupt somebody for the rest of their life, because some of these debts are not cancelable. I mean, even though they do, the federal government did say that, did pass a rule that they forgive student loan debts, and again, I could be wrong. Don't take what I'm saying as gospel, but I think that only applies to to either federal or private loans, one or the other. But the other part may not be forgivable. That means they're still probably going to be saddled with debt long after they get student forgiveness for the part of the loan that they cannot get forgiveness on. And there could be, and I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think there's a limit to how many times you can ask for forgiveness. You can't just get a degree, then 20 years later say you're going to change it and get another degree, and ask for forgiveness for the first degree, and then be saddled with debt with the second degree, and then ask for another degree. I don't think that you could do that. Now, that kind of looks a little shady right there when you do something like that. I mean, I understand when people are young, they tend to sometimes make poor decisions, and I think part of that, the reason why poor decisions are made, because they don't have someone guiding them into making the right decisions. They do not know the dangers that the college field has become now. I mean, I hate. That's something that was really sad. Is I used to work at Mickey D's one time, and I knew a person that had gotten a $20,000 degree and had to work there because there was no job, and they're still and this person had children and regular bills like the rest of us, and yet they're now saddled with that paying back that loan, paying for that child care and rent, utilities, everything else that we all else have to pay, and that the extra burden can be a little bit. It's really sad when that person is stuck taking a low minimum wage job like at McDonald's because there's no the field that they choose is oversaturated, or does the degree doesn't uh, provide a job that was really worth. So I mean, I hate seeing situations like that. I mean, this is where I would say my next bullet on there is like trade school. There was once upon a time that where everyone was preparing their kids, everyone to go to college, and college was billed as the greatest thing that you could do for your own for your children's future. It was once the greatest thing, but given what I just said about a lot of about kids going in and getting poor degrees and poor prospects of life because the saturation problem. I mean, this is not good, and this was all because back one time it was always billed as the great as the one thing you need to do for your children. And I don't think now, with the current climate, that college is for everybody. This is where I would advocate trade school may be a good thing. Getting into a trade may be better than going into college, because your prospects of getting a job may be much higher than getting a degree, like say in what was there was a degree in college that just follows social trends. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but it does exist. The social and pop culture trends, there's a degree for that. I mean, and it's virtually become redundant and useless. And I would advocate for a child to look at trade school as an option instead of just doing that. I mean, trade school may be a great way that we can balance things out in our society. I mean, we have gotten any more where we've got a lot of people that are in a trade that start and retire, and so many people have been gunning for college that we may end up into a problem where there's not enough supply of trade school graduates to replace the older generation. And that's scary. When there is and like say you're an electrician or plumber, so on. When there are a problem where you get so many people that's gone for college, and none of these people have decided to choose into those fields, there's going to be a potential where prices of everything of that service may go up because there's not enough people to cover that area. I mean, if so many people went to college and not enough have become plumbers, then those plumbers those few plumbers that have went to trade school and have gotten their education and become master plumbers, they could charge you a fortune. because there's a supply and demand problem. If there is a large demand for plumbers, and there's only like, let's say you got a town of, let's say 20,000. There's only one plumber. That plumber can charge whatever he feels like, because he doesn't have the competition to drive. He doesn't have the competition to bring his prices down, and that's where I'm trying to point at. We need more people trying to go. We need people to stop and think about that. Gunning for trade school could be a good balance in our society to keep situations from happening. I mean, I hate for wake up reality, and that's what happened. That we've end up in a society where all our master tradesmen have retired or no longer in the profession, and the few that have come in to replace them is going to charge an absorbent fee for their services, and that's going to be a wake up call for people. So don't always be scared to teach your kids that going into a trade school may be just as good money. I mean, I've heard of one plumber that was making $40,000, $50,000, $70,000, $100,000 a year. I mean, it depends on the area. I give that to people. It depends on the area. I mean, if you get in rural parts, like let's say southeast Missouri, it's nothing but farming communities over there. You're not going to make a huge fortune in Podunk, Missouri. So you may have better chances going to like your larger cities, Springfield, St. Louis, Kansas City. You may get a better option. You may make more there than you would in Podunk City. So there is a big variation on pay based on location, like they always say in the real estate industry. But still, that you can make a respectable amount of money doing a trade, rather than be saddled with a huge debt going to college and then be paying on it for almost the entire lifespan and not get out of it. It's scary, and it's something that we in our society really need to stop to think about. I mean, all these points, these bullets I tried to make a point on is like how very critical to our society, our economy, our military, to keep a really good education, and also how it could be great if we make sure we balance out the number of people going to trade school versus college. It's a good point to really stop and think about. I mean, because really, being a minimum wage worker, I mean, for the rest of your life, maybe some people's thing may not be what they wanted. They may be are in that position because they didn't choose to be. I'm not here to criticize someone's life, but there are many options out there, and we should weigh them well before we choose that path. And I sincerely hope that this country gets that picture. If we don't, I mean, like I said, if we don't take the warning what will happen to this country? We will end up sliding farther behind and make us a great target for takeover. If we slide way too far behind in our technology because we want to put education so far on the back burner, we're going to end up in a situation where we could end up like China was and be subject to the unequal treaties that they were suffered. And that could happen to the United States if we don't get our act together, get our education in better standing. I mean, heck, if we have to increase taxes just a little bit, just even a 5-cent tax a day could make a difference in a school system that's failing. Who knows? We just gotta look at our prospects. But I do not really want to see people acting like education is unimportant. I don't want to see that. It's not. They just don't understand the risk and the outcomes that will happen if we let it slide back. And I hope to God, for this country's sake, that we do not let anyone, no one in government, try to tell us that education is not that important. And a kid should not be sitting there saying education is not that important. Yeah. I want to quickly touch on that. I've heard some kids, and this is me when I was growing up, I've heard some sassy kids that talk back saying kids are not, education ain't all that important. I just want to get out and go get a job. Seriously. After what I'm reading and after what I have read throughout history, what has happened when you don't. I mean, here's another key. And here's another keystone to that, or another keystone argument against that is if you don't have that education, you become a fool for the beggar. And all it takes is someone using your ignorance against you, and you would be cleaned out dry. Everything you ever owned. You need that education to basically become your armor. Ignorance is not an excuse. It's a symbol. It's a sign of a failing of our education system. It's also a sign that we are not putting emphasis that reading and studying history and all of our arts, our maths, literature. These, you may think that is not important, but it is. It is very important. I mean, math is the language of the universe. I mean, if you want to get into the engineering or into the astronomy or the sciences, you need to be able to do your math. I mean, history. Really, people say, "Oh, it's ancient history. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me now." Sorry, but a wise man once said, "History is a lesson of the past that could teach us the future, and also it could it could give us a warning. What could happen then could happen again. Like I was just saying about the Qing dynasty in China, could be the United States' future if we put education in a second, all the way in the last place. That could be our future coming. I'll repeat, if we do not put our education first. I mean, up there in higher priority than what we do now. But that's something that we really need to sit and think about. That everything, that smart aleck kid sitting there saying that it's not important. They need to learn that these lessons will teach us the tools that we need to protect us from what could happen, or prepare us for the next stages of our lives. It's not as simple as just going in, just lollygag in front of the teacher, pretend like we're doing our work. Just we can hurry up, get out of school, and just get that get a job. I know kids out there are always rushing to get through school so they can go get their own so they can start their own lives. But and this is where I have a problem with that. Kids are rushing too far to get out of their parents' home, that they don't stop and think about these things I just talked about earlier. They're rushing too fast. They're not taking their time. Life is like a game of chess. Every move must be a strategy. Every move you make is almost like a strategy. You gotta know what your next step is, because you make the wrong step, it could be the difference between a life in ruin or a life in success. I really hope that what I talked about today really points out home why education is very important, and we need to be fighting for educators and making a point that, and we also need to get with legislators and get them to put an end to these false, fake degrees these colleges are pushing out that doesn't amount to anything. There needs more regulation on that. If there isn't a real demand for that, it doesn't need to be out there. I mean, I hope I hope a lot of this sinks in with the American public. I mean, not just Missourians, the Americans in whole, because this affects everybody in this country. If we sit around with our thumbs up our butt, pretending, I mean, like I would say, we got like mule blinders on, wanting to pretend like nothing's everything's all good and great in our country, and not even really stop and realize that the world is passing us by quickly. And there's going to be a reckoning coming. It's going to come. So I hope everyone prevents this from happening. Get your mule blinders off. Take a look around and see the facts as they are. They are scary. This is scary times that we're living in, and I hope this drives it home. So please take time out. If you're a parent, take time out. Talk with your kids. See what they are, what they have inspiration to do in life, and help guide them to the right way to go. I mean, if they inspire to be something that could end up leading them to ruin, I mean, try to steer them um, to a direction that will lead to a better life than one in where it's life in debt or whatever. Make sure, make sure you get them to come down to reality and tell them why. Don't just sit there and just badger them to go, this is the path I want you to take. This is what you're going to do. That's not the way to do it. What you need to do is just sit down and talk to them, almost like you're talking to an adult, and it's kind of a sense. It's like I just tell them I don't want you to take this degree because it's not good. And then point to them like I've seen this, and this shows that this path that you're wanting to take is no good. It's going to end up leading you to financial ruin. Please consider something different. Try to nudge them to go the right way. Even try to get their minds open to the idea of trade school. If they like tinkering, maybe they could get into carpentry. Or mechanic work. I'm not sure if mechanic work really pays well. I know diesel mechanics do get good pay. But if that's what I would do, is seriously try to sit down with them, try to reason with them, try to get them to understand that in today's society they need to be, and I would start when they start getting to the 9th grade, start having this conversation, start trying to get them to to make a choice where they want to go, and try to get and use some kindness and reason to get them to understand it, which path may be the best and which may be the worst, which will lead them to the worst life ever. I really think that this needs to happen starting at that time. They don't need to wait till about 12th grade and then say, oh, now I want to do something. Because you need to start doing college preparedness early. Your grades those grades are very important from the 9th grade forward, because I think this is back when I was in school. Your 9th to 12th grade grades, your report card is what colleges will be looking at and seeing if they are going to be accepted or denied. If students not working hard, is not working toward getting a good enough grades, some colleges may just say, sayonara. So that's why I say try to put emphasis a little bit early. Try to if they decide they want to go that way, try to like something that requires more sciences, more math. Start doing your reading. Start putting more emphasis on that. More out of school personal time studying. Just take an extra, maybe 30 minutes, an hour. Learn something new. That may steer them into that right, toward the path they want to go, or that right path, like extra sciences, extra math, or say want to be a journalist, more work on on the literature, studying on English grammar. Those are important for journalists. Just a little bit of extra work, not too much to burn the mouth, and that's not good. It's when you overwork. Yeah. On a side note, parents, don't overwork your kids. You don't like to be overworked at school. Don't overwork them too. I understand if you want them to do extra studying after school and prepare them for college, but they need to be able to have a normal childhood, normal life outside school too. So that I just want to emphasize, balance is the key. And point is this: preparedness is good, direction is good. Keep your mind open, ears open, heads up, and always be aware of what could come out and slap you in the face that you would never have expected. So I hope with this video, it helps you really stop and think about these things. Helps your kids stop and think about things. I mean, I'm taking a whole lot of information across the web and trying to condense it down from what I'm reading, and part of it's my observations, and that we need to stop and think about these things and maybe make our kids brighter, our country better, and prevent us from repeating mistakes of the past. So please have a good day, and try to stop and think about what I said. Goodbye.